listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast, your source for all the latest post-apocalyptic news.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special reunion episode of Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I'm your host, Derek. I'm joined by Shawn.
Hey, everyone.
And Stephanie.
Hello.
Gosh, we got a action-packed episode today. We are going to go through a lot of stuff. We've had E3, and Sweet Tooth is blowing up on Netflix. We've got Awake, new movie on Netflix. We've got we'll talk at the end about Walking Dead a little bit, about Handmaid's Tale. We've got Edge of Sleep coming up and so much more. Breath of the Wild and fantasy crossover. Shawn just wrote an article about fantasy crossovers in post-apocalyptic, which doesn't always sound great. You're like, fantasy, it's silly. No. Get that thought out of your head right now, because there are some really good fantasy crossovers in post-apocalyptic media. So anyways, I'm back for this week and for the foreseeable future. I just took a 4-week break. I was able to do a garage sale, sell a car, repair a different car, improve the website, onboard some new writers. I became a diamond ranked Rocket Player League player, and Rocket Player League, yes. And I held off the IRS for at least a few more weeks. So
Fighting the good fight.
Woo!
Yes. So they have fewer dollars to build their bombs with, at least for a few more weeks. So, but don't you worry, we will probably increase the nuclear stockpile in the next couple of years, because that's what we need to do. Okay. So anyways, I couldn't stay away. We've got so much going on. I just want to jump right into it and talk about some of the things that are happening. But you know what? I haven't been the only one staying busy these last few weeks. Shawn, you just went on a road trip?
Yeah.
Tell us
hear all about it?
Please.
Well, it's my wife and I's 10th anniversary was last couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And, well, thank you. When we got married, we took our honeymoon out east, and we just rented a car. We flew out to New Hampshire, rented a car, drove around Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, all that, New York. And just, we're spontaneous. When we were tired, we got a hotel, and we would just see, like, we saw the Ben and Jerry's factory. That was, it was amazing. And that was the highlight of the trip, by the way. And so then for our 10-year anniversary, we promised ourselves we would go out west and do the exact same thing. So we flew out to Salt Lake City, rented a car, and just drove. We went through 8 states. Let's see if I can remember them all. Utah, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, and California, and Nevada. Yeah, that's 8.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It was incredible because it was, we went from forest to mountains to desert. It's a really vast area out there, and it's so beautiful. Oh man, I've never been to like Idaho and Wyoming and Montana before, so it was really incredible. And we did the same thing. We just rented a car. We just got hotel rooms, when we could. The only time when that really almost bit us in the butt was we went to Yellowstone, and it turns out this is the busiest time of the year for Yellowstone, and people have been waiting a year to go there. So everyone was there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get a hotel room.
Mm.
Yeah, and so we couldn't get a hotel room one of the nights, and we thought we were going to sleep in the car, which we were totally prepared to do. But then we had a cancellation. Somebody had a cancellation, and we were able to get a room at like midnight. It was crazy.
Wow. That is crazy.
But that's the kind of thing that we love, like the spontaneity of that, and like the adventure of that, I guess. And so we have a story to tell for that. And,
that's true.
But we did Yellowstone, we did Reno, which was a blast. Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon are gorgeous. It's like a desert mountain area. It's really, really cool. Just, driving side roads. We got off the beaten path. We took highways a little bit, but
Really?
Yeah, just driving. We got a national park pass the one that's like a yearly pass where you can visit any national park, and we just went through as many as we could. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
That sounds fun. Was there one location in particular that like stood out to you, or were they all just like equally nice?
Oh man. Well, Yellowstone was amazing. We weren't aware that there were bison just walking around in the park, and so you're walking, and they have these park rangers that'll stop the crowd so that the bison can walk through the crowd, and they make you stay back like 20 feet. And it was just like, wow, that's a bison right there, like walking by. I don't know, it was pretty cool.
That is.
And so it was like these guys' jobs to follow the bison around and make sure that no one goes near them. I said, I want that job.
Yeah, what a job.
We actually, I don't know if you guys are fans of the show Napoleon Dynamite, but
Yes.
we saw the filming locations for that. We went to like Napoleon Dynamite's house and Pedro's house and all that stuff. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, where is that?
It's in Preston, Idaho. It's just this little town in Idaho. Yeah. It's kind of
Idaho,
funny.
man. Yeah, that whole area, Washington, Idaho, Montana, just has some really undeveloped, great lands with lots of huge old trees. I love it.
Yeah.
There's a tree that grows up around there. It grows all over the world, really. But I really like it. It's called a Douglas fir, and they grow fast. It's like 15 years, and they're already like at their max height, which is not max height. You know, they get taller and taller, but they grow like 100 meters or something, 100 feet up.
Wow.
So I love them. You know, around where I'm at in Texas, trees just really don't grow that tall. We got plenty of them, but they're 25 feet up or so when they call it quits. So Stephanie and I took a little vacation to Washington and just went up into the mountains where there were trees there and just really enjoyed it. But that sounds like y'all had the most beautiful trek, and then you went down into California and then over to like Reno.
Yeah. Well, we went down to Reno, and then we kind of went across Lake Tahoe. We drove around Lake Tahoe, which goes into California. Like Lake Tahoe is split in half, California and Nevada. And so we drove around Lake Tahoe, and so we dipped into California a little bit and then came back to Nevada. Just to say that we hit that eighth state, basically.
So after you went on your trip, Stephanie and I decided to watch Mitchell's versus the Machines, which is, if you're not familiar with our previous coverage on this show, it's a Netflix movie. It's kind of like a family movie. It's also post-apocalyptic, and so Stephanie and I watched it. It's kind of like I think you made the metaphor of the Goofy movie, and there's a lot of similarities in this. Road trip. It's like a road trip. Basically, I'm not giving away too much of the plot to tell you that the family is like sending their oldest child off to college, and they decide to do a road trip to the college, and that's kind of the premise of the show. And then Stephanie and I were watching that, and we're like, that's funny that this kind of aligns with Shawn's life right now. Because he has an adult child going to college, right?
Yeah.
And you just did this huge road trip.
Yeah. Although we weren't escaping robots. We weren't.
I was thinking like, golly, I hope this isn't some weird universe is trying to tell me something. Like I need to be ready for the robot apocalypse. Certainly what Boston Dynamics doing is frightening in the sense that it can go really bad. And be difficult, but anyways, on the Mitchells versus the Machines. My apologies to those who are just listening, because I'm about to show a picture. This is when it became really funny to me. And let me use the share screen feature, because this is start share. Here we go. Then all right. So the main character in this show is this guy right here. Now tell me that doesn't look like one of our podcast contributors.
My hair. I had some hair on here.
That is Shawn.
I have that same blank stare.
This is him, watching old home videos or something. Here's another clip. I mean, come on, this guy, he even has your facial hair, Shawn. What?
That's true.
Are you going to sue them for using your likeness?
My legs aren't quite that skinny, but
he's got toned legs. So that is impressive. Well, so anyways, apologies. What I just showed on the screen is some clips from Mitchell's versus the Machines. The father character in that movie, just really, Shawn and him have a very similar style. I'll leave it at that.
Based on a true story.
yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Let's see. We had E3 just happen. It just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it, I have to say, I know that there are announcements that people really were looking forward to and they were happy about. Halo Infinite had a lot of footage, and Halo, first of all, if you don't know, it is post-apocalyptic. Halo's the whole story of people who have to sacrifice basically the rest of their lives to live in a machine so that they can fight aliens and save humanity. So that's the story of Halo. Master Chief can never get out of his suit. You never see him out of his suit or even his face, really. Okay, so Halo, it is coming at the end of this year. It's in holiday season, whatever that means. It looks good. And that is important because in previous things where they were showing us the Halo, it looked crap. It looked like the same old, it looked like they didn't do anything at all to improve the graphics. And it's 5 years since the last iteration. So people were so mad. And they came out, they were like, sorry, everybody, we really suck. And we don't even know why we were confident to show you that clip because it sucked. And they just took total responsibility of it. And now it looks good. And you can watch several minutes of multiplayer gameplay. It looks like fun. So that was exciting. But aside from the Halo stuff, I got to tell you, this E3 was super disappointing for me.
Well, I mean, there's no Fallout news, so.
Yeah, I mean, how disappointed were you, Derek, just reliving that? And when they pulled up the Fallout Pittsburgh, was it Fallout Pittsburgh kind of graphic, and you thought for a second that it was going to be a new Fallout game, and it turned out to be a Fallout 76 add-on? I don't know if you watched that presentation too, Shawn, but oh my gosh, that was disappointing.
No, I didn't see it, but yeah, I heard that a lot of people were expecting a 76 add-on, even though it's kind of not a big deal. It's like an MMO update. It's just a thing that happened. And for them to announce that at E3, it was, I don't know.
I was reading the Reddit live thread, and there were so many people who were so upset because they thought it was going to be a new Fallout, and they got so excited, and then Fallout 76, and they were so sad.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's a little, it makes sense that for somebody to get excited because Fallout 76, to my knowledge, has taken place in this little area of West Virginia. And Pittsburgh's not really that close to it. To my, I don't have a lot of good geographical knowledge of that area, but yeah, it seems like a big enough difference in scenery that it wasn't going to be a Fallout 76 thing, and then it was, and it's okay, well, that's great for Fallout 76 fans, and maybe someday I can become a fan as well. We'll see what happens with it, but. Let me ask you, do you know if they've made a new Elder Scrolls game since they came out with their Elder Scrolls Online?
No, they've basically just been doing add-ons for that. They have a lot. Actually, it's a really popular game, but they just update that.
Okay. So, so I'm not saying this is for sure the case, but, isn't it possible that this is what they want to do and they're not going to make new standalone Fallouts, and they're not going to make new standalone Elder Scrolls, and they just want to make 2-minute meaningless clips about Starfield for the foreseeable future.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not pulling any punches when it comes to the Starfield. Give me a break. You know, they're like, we've been working in secret for a year. Here is some shadows from boxes and, you know, like a ship taking off. Come on. God, they've been teasing it for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was E3. No, there's more to E3. If you like the Left 4 Dead series, there's something to be excited about. Back 4 Blood is like, you know, in the vein of it. I don't know. I don't want to be on the record for saying like it's a sequel or something like that, but they clearly want you to think. Go ahead.
It's made by the same people, basically.
Same people. And
Yeah.
they put the number 4 in the middle of the title, so you know there's something there.
Connection.
You know what? I was going to say this at the end of the episode just because of where it ended up in the notes, but I should say it now. See, the Apple TV series has an official date. I think it's like, what is it, August 23rd? Could somebody...
27th.
August 27th. Okay.
Oh, wow. That soon? Wow.
Look, here's the thing. The pitch for C may not excite you. It didn't excite me at first. I'm gonna encourage you to give it a shot anyways, and here's why. Everybody I've talked to that's seen C liked it. So it's a good show. It's adult, so very much adult.
Yeah.
Beware of that. But it's good. It's coming back, and you got plenty of time to catch up on it. It's only like, I don't even know, 8-10 episodes.
Yeah.
So get into that. Another thing that we've talked about before on the episode I wanted to bring up is just real quickly, Sweet Tooth. Stephanie and I are halfway through watching it. You guys, if you haven't seen it, first of all, you need to know it is blowing up on Netflix. Yeah. People love Sweet Tooth. And I tell you why, it's great.
It's really good.
It like checks all these boxes for me that that I haven't even, like, there's a part of me that really loves Hook. You remember that old movie like Hook?
Yeah.
Like a Peter Pan tale, and it has like these kids who form their own little mini society with their own hierarchy, and it's all fun. Sweet Tooth did something like that that's like really cool, and it like just intrigued me and pulls me in, and it has these characters that are just really fun to get to know, and the lead character is killing it. Like he's clearly a very young child actor, but he's very talented in his role. So Shawn talked about Sweet Tooth in a previous episode, which I encourage you to go visit. But I just wanted to bring it up because if it's not on your radar, if you haven't started Sweet Tooth yet, give it a shot. It is high production value. And this is another thing about it is Netflix is right now making a ton of post-apocalyptic stuff. They did their Bird Box and was it Bird Box? I don't know what
they just released Black Summer season 2.
Black Summer season
a few days
2.
ago.
Oh my God, I didn't even put that on. We have so much to talk about. I didn't even have Black Summer season 2 on my show notes.
Yeah, we haven't started watching it yet, but they just released it. And let me just tell you, if you're listening to this and you've been hesitant about Sweet Tooth, then you were like me. I heard Shawn say how great it was, and I was still hesitant. I was being very judgmental based on the name and the fact that it has a kid with antlers. And Derek was like, do you want to watch it today? I said, no, I want to watch War of the Worlds or Fear of the Walking Dead or Handmaid's Tale. War of the Worlds, sadly, has been taken off our cable subscription Epix, so we're going to have to find another way. But anyway, if you have been hesitant on Sweet Tooth for the same shallow reasons that I was, give it a try. It is really, really good. So that's my pitch for all the people who have put it off like me.
Basically, just listen to Shawn and everything will be all right. Yes, you're right. You were absolutely correct about it, and I should have just listened from the beginning. You know, what's funny is when we were gone on our vacation, we stopped at a Barnes & Noble, and I saw the Sweet Tooth comic, the graphic novel, and I thought about buying it, but I'm not really into graphic novels. Like I don't have any, but because I like the show so much, I thought about buying it, and that's how good it is. It almost got me to get a graphic novel. I didn't.
Yeah.
But almost.
That's really good. I mean, that's like I've started reading the Attack on Titan manga.
Oh yeah.
Because of how much I love the anime, and I slowed it down because I've been wanting for like the last month to do stories comparing the anime and the manga, so I slowed down my reading of it. But yeah, just like you know, a show has to be really good to make me want to do that. And yeah, Sweet Tooth is great.
So I forgot where I was going to go. Oh yeah. So anyways, it's blowing up on Netflix. It was the number one most watched thing on Netflix like a few days after it came out. And I think Awake was number 2. It may have been 3, but I remember taking a picture of my television screen.
Oh yeah.
Because Awake was up there too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Shawn is about to tell us about Awake because Stephanie and I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But before he does, I just wanted to finish this thought of how when we're watching our post-apocalyptic shows, especially close to when they launch, Netflix is watching that. They have people looking at the stats and saying, you know, we're hitting on something that people like here. So you may not feel any sort of urgency to watch Sweet Tooth, and really, it's your choice. You know, whether you watch it at all or ever. And but just know you do have you're voting with your dollars a little bit when you pull up Sweet Tooth and watch it, and you show Netflix, hey, look, I liked Bird Box, I like Black Summer, I like Sweet Tooth, I like Awake, I like when you're catering to the post-apocalyptic people. So anyways, just want to encourage you, check out Sweet Tooth. I love it. I think it's impressive. I think most people will like it. All right, so tell us about Awake, because my mic fell over. Okay.
Oh no.
So yeah, Awake. Now, ironically, I was telling you about this when I came back from my trip. Is I watched it when I couldn't sleep. You know, you go to hotel rooms, you know, for a week, and you get to the point where you can't, you know, you miss your bed. You can't sleep in hotel rooms. But so yeah, I'm just, you know, lying awake, and I figure, hey, I'm gonna watch Awake, which was a funny parallel because the whole show is about not being able to sleep. And I guess at first, when I first saw the trailer for it, I thought it was for people who can't fall asleep. Like if they fall asleep, they'll die. But that's not it. It's actually they can't fall asleep at all. Like they try to, and they can't go to sleep at all. But much as, say, something like Children of Men, where they were trying to escort that pregnant woman who was like the last person who could have a baby, this show, they were escorting this little girl who could sleep. She was like the last one who could sleep. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you know, after a couple days of not sleeping, you really lose cognitive skills and, you know, motor skills and all this stuff, which I think they did a really good job of showing toward the end of the movie. People are just stumbling over each other. There's a whole scene where National Guard guys just go crazy because they think they're seeing things and they're just hallucinating. And it's so they're escorting this little girl who can sleep. They're trying to figure out, the mom is trying to protect her from the scientists who want to find out why she can sleep, you know, which, you know, assumably would be through dissection. Like she was worried that they were going to dissect her. But then the scientists are trying to get her too. Yeah, it does. It's and that's, you know, that was the argument. But, you know, the progression of the movie I think was really good because it started out as like a thriller. You know, nobody knows why this is happening, why no one can sleep. But then toward the end of the movie, it was just this crazy, like, psychological thriller where people are just going crazy, you know, and the mom is still trying to protect her daughter. And I think it was pretty good. I think I didn't read any reviews, but I saw in Bill's article, he was saying that the reviews weren't so great for it. And he was kind of defending the movie and saying it's actually really good. I agree with him. I think it was good. There were a few parts that were a little, you know, looked a little low budget, but other than that, I think it was a really well acted and well done movie.
Well, sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some discussion about it in the post-apocalyptic Discord, and which, by the way, come join us if you'd like to, and chat with us throughout the week. we cover news that comes up more than we even can cover on the show.
Yeah.
So we had a short chat about it, and the bottom line is, once you've gone several, even not even several days, but certainly once you've gone several days without sleep, you do have hallucinations, and they can be very powerful. There was a Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago that he interviewed this sleep expert, and it lit a fire under my butt to sleep better and to be more consistent with it, because he starts rattling off these stats about how like just having less sleep means that you're more susceptible to cancer and you're like less happy in general. It's just like all these things, all these reasons, not to mention the things that are pretty obvious, like you don't drive as safely and all these other things. But he was talking about this guy who was a radio show host who decided to do a sleep deprivation experiment where he like hosted his radio show for several days in a row in Times Square in New York. And like by day 4, he was having paranoid delusions where he thought people were like attacking him.
Oh, wow.
So the idea in a way,
that.
that people would act that irrationally and stuff, it really isn't very far-fetched.
Yeah.
Because the paranoia really would. Yeah, we need to watch Awake soon.
I was thinking in that radio podcast guy's show where he slowly becomes delusional on his podcast. Like, I want to watch that too. And what's also crazy is I don't know the name of it, but there's a familial insomnia. There's like one family that has a genetic disorder that sometimes gets passed down where at a certain it's something wrong with their brain, and they reach a certain point in their life and suddenly their brain refuses to sleep anymore. It just loses the ability, which I wonder if maybe Awake got that idea from them. And it's awful that, it's terminal. They die from it. Yeah. And even putting them under anesthesia, none of it's enough to allow their brain to get the recovery it needs from sleep. It's just, they're not capable of sleeping anymore. I don't know that there's a name for it. I don't know it, but it's limited to just one family line. But if you Google it, you can learn more about it. It's crazy and sad.
Yeah, I would totally agree that it's hereditary. I mean, I don't sleep I sleep maybe 5 hours a night, and my dad was the same way. And my wife, on the other hand, she will sleep. I mean, I'm not, saying anything bad about her, but she will sleep 10 hours, 11 hours on a weekend. And it blows my mind. I'm just like, I wish I could do that. That's like her superpower.
Is she like catching up on, is that something you can't do? Like, even if you're short on sleep, you can't do like 10 hour or 11 hour?
I can't. But I've heard that some researchers have said before that you can't actually like bank sleep and you can't catch up on sleep. Like if you miss a few days, which I don't know if I agree with that because there have been days where I haven't gotten any sleep, and then the next day I sleep like 8 hours, and I'm like, it's amazing.
Which is catching up for Shawn. Meanwhile, for me, there's days when I don't get enough sleep, and then I sleep for 12 hours and catch up. So it feels like, maybe they mean you can't undo some of the damage, but it seems like you can catch up at least to some degree. But that's so crazy. Like, so you don't feel like you're not rested. You just only need 5 hours.
It is the weirdest thing, because if I get like 8 hours of sleep, I feel horrible. I feel like I have headaches. It's horrible. It's really weird. And I've even tried, if I take a nap during the day, I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, my head, I feel so weird and groggy, and I don't know what it is. But my dad was the exact same way. He'd be fine. 5 hours and he'd be fine.
I feel like only needing 5 hours is an evolutionary advantage.
Well, I am part cyborg, so I think might be it.
Yeah, like I really wish.
That might have something to do with it.
I wish I only needed 5 hours. That'd be amazing. I'd get so much more done.
Yeah. It is nice sometimes.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Yeah. About the sleep deficit, there was something I did learn from that podcast, and that is, I don't know if you could catch up on a sleep deficit, but your body does keep track of some of the things, like the different stages of sleep. and what you need. So if you're like not getting enough of like REM sleep, your body will be more quick to put you into REM sleep. And it's a lot of times why people, recall vivid dreams even when they just took a short nap, because the body knew, oh, we're low on this kind of sleep, puts them right into it, and they're already dreaming. Okay, yeah. And speaking of sleep, Edge of Sleep. Any news about that? I seem to recall there was recently something.
Yes, in the last week or two, I think they wrapped filming finally. So I don't know what, if it's just coming out on YouTube or when it's coming out, but I was going to do a story on that, and I still need to. But just last week, Markiplier put, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, put on YouTube or on his Instagram that they had wrapped filming. So it's moving along. It sounds exciting to me. And it's funny that that's being made right when, an Awake just came out. So they're approaching it from totally different angles, because Edge of Sleep is based on a podcast. And it's about people who die. They're dying in their sleep. So you've got a group of people trying not to sleep, which is kind of the opposite approach that Awake is taking.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, So if they just finished shooting, for all we know, it could be a year or more, because sometimes they take that long to edit. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see how that goes. But while we're on the topic of shows, things coming out on Netflix that are post-apocalyptic, we mentioned it, but I'll just say it again. Black Summer Season 2 is live. It is out. So check it out. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen a lot of people saying they really like it. Even people that were critical of season 1 are saying they liked season 2. So think about that. And then of course, that is in the whole Z Nation universe, which the Z Nation series is a fun series, definitely worth a shot. But okay, now we're going to take. So on that thing, Tomorrow War coming out in just a couple weeks. Okay, so this is a really good looking movie. We've talked about this a few times, but I just want you to put that on your calendar. I'm going to watch it opening day. I'm fairly certain about it. I'm just so excited about this plot. This looks great. Chris Pratt, alien invasion / time travel, defending Earth. The whole idea of species survival and humanity joining together, it just like gives me good vibes. And I shouldn't be saying that on a broadcasting podcast when alien interaction may be right around the corner, but come on.
June 25th. 3 days from now is the deadline for the redacted, likely highly redacted release to Congress.
Yes. So we don't know anything yet. We've basically covered all the most juicy details of Aliens on this, and we've been watching it very closely. To be honest, nothing real earth-shattering has come out recently. But if it does, you will hear about it here, because we are very concerned with Aliens and excited. Yes. Every time last night I looked up in the sky and I saw something funny, and every time I do, I'm like, what is it? Is it now? Is it finally happening? It was just like it was heat lightning, which
was it? I think it was just a lightning storm that was incredibly intense.
Agree to disagree.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
So
sounds good.
So I wanted to. All right. So we're about to go to our topics, our different topics. All right. So Stephanie's going to talk about Breath of the Wild. Oh. Shawn is going to talk about his article, the top 10 post-apoc fantasy crossovers. Before we get to that, I want to give a sneaky survival tip. I'm calling it that now because I thought about it. I was like, all my survival tips are sneaky. And that's partially because I feel like the like common knowledge survival tips are already out there and I don't need to contribute to that. But maybe I can give you some sneaky ideas. And here's one. In the post-apocalypse, you're traveling with a group. You don't need to be near each other when you're traveling in like unknown areas. You need to be spread out. and within, you know, where you can see each other and you know where each other is. But like if you encounter another group, you only need one person as the diplomat. That person needs to be the least intimidating looking one of you.
Smart.
I've learned, you know, people are more likely to be defensive and aggressive if they fear you, really, in a lot of cases, especially in something anarchic, you know, like an anarchy. So send your friendliest face forward, and then you need to have people, you know, with their weapons trained on the situation, and then that way you have the ability to respond if they turn hostile, and then you also have that ace up the sleeve, right? You know, they do turn hostile. You're like, wait a second, I've got, you know, you don't have a red dot like on their forehead, but you can basically describe that that's what's happening right now, and, you know, even give a warning shot and maybe having a communication thing worked out. But I think that that's the way to do it. You keep your cards, you stay a little bit separated but close enough. If you need to consider exchanging hostages. And this is something that humanity really hasn't had to do for probably a long time. I don't know when the last hostage exchange was done. But let me tell you what you don't do when you exchange hostages. You don't kill the hostages and you don't like betray and try to escape if you're the hostage. That leads to more problems. And I bring that up because there was a hostage exchange on Fear the Walking Dead, and it went very, very wrong. And in that kind of situation, your reputation and your, you know, the way people deal with you is going to, in some ways, be determined by your history. So don't harm the hostages, and always get your hostages back. Okay, so that's sneaky survival tips with Derek. Let's jump right in to the part of the show where I try to hold my tongue and not argue with Stephanie about Breath of the Wild. Go right ahead.
Feel free to argue. I really don't have a ton to say, except that Breath of the Wild 2, you know, we had heard about it before. We knew before that was coming out, and we've been waiting. If you're like me, I have been excitedly waiting. I've been very slowly playing through Breath of the Wild,
which is a Zelda game.
A Zelda game
on
yes.
Nintendo.
Yes, I've been playing through it very slowly on my Switch, because I didn't want to finish it. It's really beautiful. I mean, I don't need to sell it. Everybody knows it's one of the best games out there. It's just gorgeous. Oh, it's so much to do.
It's gorgeous by like 2009 standards.
No, actually, by 2021 standards, it is beautiful. And
like retro graphics.
No, it's actually not retro. It is stunningly gorgeous. Keep in mind, Derek has only played this game twice, and that was when I needed him to solve a puzzle. So he doesn't have a ton of experience. Breath of the Wild is post-apocalyptic. Just like no doubt. There was a huge calamity. There's ruins everywhere. He has memories before the ruins. It's just pure post-apocalyptic. So they finally announced. That was the most exciting part of E3, in my opinion. The most exciting part of E3 was Nintendo giving a trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, announcing that it's coming out in 2022, which that part made me sad because I want it for the holidays. And I'm just about to finally, like, I just can't keep putting it off. I'm about to finish Breath of the Wild and kill Calamity Ganon and win, and I'm all set up to win. It makes me sad, though. Anyway, Breath of the Wild 2 is amazing. It looks like instead of the Shake a Slate, Link is going to have a really super cool thing on his arm that works instead. It looks like there's going to be a temple floating in the sky that he visits somehow. I mean, it is super exciting. And I know some people were excited. They thought that maybe they'd be able to choose to play Zelda, but the trailer at least didn't really seem to give any indication of that happening. So it looks like it's gonna be really good. You know, there was a short trailer just with a few clips, but they were exciting to me. And that is coming in 2022, and it will be the best post-apocalyptic game of the year.
All right. Well, what a great segue, because that is a post-apocalyptic fantasy crossover, right?
Ooh,
I mean, you got
yes.
magic and stuff in that. He plays a little flute and travels through time.
Wait, he doesn't. Well, he doesn't play a flute in Breath of the Wild.
You gotta. Okay, sorry, Zelda fans. You've got to remember Stephanie started Zelda with Breath of the Wild.
With Breath of the Wild, yes.
Ocarina of Time is not in her canon yet.
But there is another Breath of the Wild of some sort coming out in July. That's like a remake of an older one. So, if you need something to tide you over.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry,
Ocarina of
Zelda,
Time
not
and
Breath.
Majora's Mask, I know, are beloved Zelda entries. I feel like they like this new one, this one that Stephanie's talking about even more.
The Breath of the Wild 2 might also involve time travel. Sorry, go on.
Okay, it might involve time travel. You heard it here first. So that's a fantasy crossover, which Shawn just today published an article detailing the top 10 post-apocalyptic fantasy crossovers. I can't say I disagree with much of this list.
Wow, really?
Wow. High praise.
Yeah. Yeah, I when I wrote this article, I want to make sure that people knew this is kind of my top 10. You know, it's like, you know, you can disagree with it if you want, but there are a lot out there that could arguably be considered a crossover between fantasy. Like you mentioned, you know, parts of Zelda. But so I went through and I thought of my favorites, and then I kind of wrote little blurbs on each one, and you know, there's books, there's movies, there's TV shows, there's comic books. I want to make sure to get a good variety in there, and of course Sweet Tooth is in there. You know, it made my top 10.
As it deserves.
Yeah, and some of these are, I think a lot of people would be like, wait a minute, that's not post-apocalyptic. So I made sure to kind of give a little disclaimer, and I said my rules are simple. The story must contain elements of the opposing genre. So, you know, a post-apocalyptic movie with fantasy elements, or the other way around. It has to have a part of it, but it doesn't really have to be obvious. You know, it doesn't have to be like, this is a crossover. And a good example of that is something like Dies the Fire, S.M. Stirling. He wrote this whole series of books in the early 2000s, and I think he wrote the last one in 2018, where it's basically everything shuts off. They call it the Emberverse. And I love this series so much. I read the whole thing and just really got to me. And it's modern day, you know, it's not in a fantasy world, but they everything shuts off. Everything electric, everything that you can think of can no longer be used. So they go back to like bows and arrows and swords and stuff like that. But they're not dressing up like knights, you know, they're not dressing up like elves or anything like that. But there's a main character named Astrid who is obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And so I thought this was a great touch for this book, the whole series. And so she, in the first book, she obsesses about it. She talks about it. She wants to be a ranger. She shoots her bow and arrow. She wants to be Legolas, you know. And then later she creates this group of rangers called the Dunedain, which is from Lord of the Rings. And she even makes it a requirement for these people in this group to speak Elvish, to speak Tolkien's Elvish, you know. And so I think that
Sindarin or Quenya?
Well, that I don't know. That's
okay.
That's getting a little, that's getting a little deep there. But yeah, I think it's interesting that. Well, actually, what's funny about that is you know Tolkien's world, and I think when S.M. Stirling wrote this, he kind of skipped around a little bit. Like so they're supposed to be Dunedain Rangers. They speak Elvish. I don't understand that connection. And then also they fly a flag from Gondor. And it's like, wait a minute. So it's almost like, I don't know. I hate to say that S.M. Stirling doesn't know, you know, the deep lore of that's a whole different podcast.
I want to defend it a little bit. Like, isn't it the Dunedain Rangers are, I think, if I remember right, they, like Aragorn was the true king, right? He was in the lineage. Yeah. And so he was a Dunedain Ranger. Yeah. I think. So then it would make sense they'd fly the flag of Gondor because he is the true heir to Gondor, even though a Stewart was sitting on the throne for for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking is like they're going way back. You know, they're going way back to when the Dunedain came to Gondor. But that, like I said, that's a whole different podcast. That's getting into that lore. But, you know, that's an example. Lord of the Rings lore is an example of how I love fantasy stuff, and I also love post-apocalyptic. So I wanted to get this out there, you know, kind of my favorite combinations of the two. You know, and there are some really good examples of kind of a high fantasy, like a you know, more traditional high fantasy, like the movie what's that one called, Doomsday, which a lot of people didn't like that movie.
You have that as number 2.
Yeah, I love the crossover they do. They have a Scottish castle. Now this is a post-apocalyptic movie. It's not fantasy, but they bring in an element of fantasy when the king, played by Malcolm McDowell, he has his own castle, and it's a genuine Scottish castle that he kind of fortifies and gets, you know, all set up to kind of live this world. Like, it's almost like he's role playing that he is the actual king, and he makes all these knights, and these knights their armor is all made out of scrap metal, which is the coolest thing in the world to me. You know, when I saw that, I was like, that's the perfect. That's a perfect storm for me. Like, scrap metal knights, like you can't get better than that. And I think that's why I like the movie so much. I mean, there are elements of it that are horrible, and you know, but I just love that whole part of it. And then there's other, like the Shannara books are a really good example, because they have elves and dwarves and gnomes and stuff like that, but it's also post-apocalyptic. You know.
Yeah, I like the Shannara approach, because it was kind of like, I don't know if you watch Stargate, but Stargate did this thing where they'd take like all the myths of human history and create a scientific explanation for them. And Shannara kind of took that with the like the Tolkien myths, and it's like, you know, it was probably like radiation that caused all of these subspecies of human basically in the Shannaraverse. I'm not an expert on the lore. I watched the show and I didn't want to read it, but that kind of seemed like what they were going for. Shannara is good. I want to remove my my seal of approval from this, because I've just realized that there is no Adventure Time in this list.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, yeah, my wife's a big fan. I never really watched all. I think I watched like 2 episodes of that. So I guess if I watched more, I might, you know, be more interested.
But you do have C, so I'm going to push you
Yes.
to defend C in that list.
All right. So C. Now I say it in the article too that it's kind of more caveman than He-Man, you know, as far as the fantasy elements of it. But there are fantasy elements. I put a picture in there in the article of what I thought was a great example of this. You have the guy who has his kind of henchmen around him, and they all have, you know, armor, like suits of armor on. And a lot of that isn't really to be like suits of armor. They're basically covering their faces because they can't see. So, you know, they can have full plate over their faces, and, you know, it doesn't matter. But
yeah, good point.
I think that
That is a good point.
the use of that kind of medieval, you know, they have spears and pikes and swords and clubs and stuff like that. And, you know, Jason Momoa's character is amazing with with his club. It's just, you know, very skilled with it. And I think that's kind of that fantasy element of it is very strong.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that there are names that everybody goes, whoa, in the C universe, you go, oh, that's Baba whatever, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, that is nice.
So
Yeah.
I like that aspect of it. I can see what you're saying. What about the Master of the Universe? What was that? The Thundar. What about Thundar?
Oh,
that-
Thundar the Barbarian. Yeah, that's another one that, now, if Bill was on the show, he could tell us about that. I watched
Yeah, he could.
a couple episodes of that a long time ago when I was a kid, so I don't really,
Okay.
never really got into that.
And Shawn, I noticed you said in your article that you did not like the Shannara Chronicles TV show, only liked the books.
Yeah,
you
what's
told
up
us
with
to
that?
forget about the TV show.
Well,
Blasphemy.
it's not as good. That's what. And I hate to be like one of those people who's like, oh, the show's horrible, only the book. But that's how I felt on that one.
There was like a 2 or 3 episode area of the series in which it really stunk. It was like, I don't know if you watched Power Rangers. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I did. That was kind of like the perfect.
I'm a little old for that. But.
Yeah. I was the target audience, and even I was like, this is kind of cheesy. But like the Power Rangers thing was just like, there was like this evil person who would like cook up these little clay monsters and like send them, and it's like, well, they defeated my first 2, but I put an extra clay on these, and I gave them a laser, and it was just so cheesy. It was just them sending people to die over and over again, and the Power Rangers like, well, we have to try just a little harder, let's see if we can do it. And that was like Shannara Chronicles. For like a short period of time, there was like this bad guy, and he's like, raise army, attack, and I'm going to chill here for a few hours and just see what happens. And it was just like really dumb. So like I criticize that, but Shannara Chronicles clawed its way back into my heart after that. Had a great setup for season 3, and then just poof, disappeared.
Yeah.
So bummer on that. So I get what you're saying, avoid the Shannara, especially if you're going to read the books. Read the books first, then the TV show is just cherry on top. But the TV series isn't going to leave you satisfied because it ends abruptly and far too soon.
That was sad. I do need to try the books. Find out how it ended.
Okay, so Dune is coming up not too long now.
Really?
A few months.
Is it
maybe.
December?
It's got to be before December.
No, I don't know. I was asking you. I have no idea.
I know. I don't know either.
We have to check our own calendar.
I'm like quickly saying,
October.
don't.
October 1st.
Oh, yeah.
Even sooner.
HBO
Wow.
Max.
Yeah. October 22nd, Invasion premieres on Apple TV. And that is an alien invasion series, I believe. Is it a series?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, so we've announced those things. Another thing to mention is Walking Dead is over. The Fear the Walking Dead finale has aired. Handmaid's Tale finale has aired.
These are both season finales, just FYI.
Yeah,
For the audience,
season
you know
finales.
that.
They're coming back, and we wanted to talk about this stuff at the end of the episode. We really didn't prepare to talk about Handmaid's Tale. We probably won't talk much about that. However, I just want to say, and I'm not going to spoil anything for either show, so just don't worry about that. I would send you away if that's what I plan to do, because that's the kind of guy I am. The Fear the Walking Dead season finale is it's something else. It is epic. It is shocking. It is interesting. It is not what you expect from that finale. Yeah. And it just, there's so many times, especially as a series gets longer and longer with the same leads and stuff, you start to get too comfortable, and you're like, I know they're not gonna do that, and this character really isn't in that much danger. And I just feel like I'm not telling you at all, what happens or anything, but I'm just saying at the end of Fear the Walking Dead, they give you some stuff that's totally believable in universe, and also just you go, what that happened?
Yeah.
And so
it's good.
So yeah, that's my pitch for catching up on Fear the Walking Dead. They do something that you're not going to see in any of the other Walking Dead series
Good
yet.
pitch.
Going on to Handmaid's Tale. Is there anything we can say without spoiling it, Steph?
I would just say it's very satisfying. It's dark. I mean, this is most, Handmaid's Tale is always dark. But yeah, if you were hesitant to watch this season of Handmaid's Tale, for whatever reason, based on previous seasons or frustrations or whatever, I would just say give it a try. It was a really good season. It was only 10 episodes instead of the regular 13, and that had nothing to do with COVID at all. They decided long before the pandemic that they were only going to make this one 10 episodes because they wanted to tell a tighter story and not have as much filler. And I think that they succeeded at that. So if you were kind of a fan of season 1 because it was 10 episodes and it was more concise and you felt like things moved a little bit faster, I think Derek will still say he felt like it moved slow at times. But he's nodding in case you are listening to the podcast. He is nodding right now very vehemently. But it's I would give this season a try if you've been hesitant.
Yeah.
I guess what I can say without spoiling.
What I'll say is the show reinvents itself this season in a way. And
It's a good way to
it was long overdue, in my opinion. So take that for what it's worth. This season, the main
really
a large amount of the plot was devoted to legal proceedings. So make
but
that
not
interesting.
in a boring way.
Not in that boring of a way, but it's still legal proceed. I don't know. They reinvented themselves. They covered topics and asked questions and made you think, and that's a lot of stuff that Handmaid's Tale hasn't always done traditionally. So, and it's reinvented itself. So that's what I'll say.
Really good
about this recent season. We have come upon an hour, and we have covered a lot of the news, and not all of it. Not all of it. There's other games coming up that we haven't even talked about yet. There are series that just ended that we haven't really talked about. We like Van Helsing. Van Helsing just had their final season. That is a post-apocalyptic vampire show. And I've watched the first season plus of that, and it's actually pretty decent. But I didn't watch the whole thing. Anyways, that just did their final season. Might want to check that out. There's more. We're going to be back every single week. Friday is when our podcast drops on all the major platforms, including YouTube. But also, if you want to be here, talk to us live, any discussion in the chat, by the way, we're on Twitch.
Nope. No.
So, all right. So we are speaking out into the void of Twitch. You Twitchers, you get in there. You tell us your opinion about stuff. But even if you don't, we're going to be back week after week, Tuesdays at 4 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. And feel free to join us. Feel free to join us on the Discord. And don't forget, we have a website, y'all. That's where we all started, where we all met, is postapocalyptic.com. So check that out. And Steph and Shawn are writing regularly on Post-Apoc. I'm trying to improve the back end of the website, mostly failing, but we're growing. Golly, we have a YouTube channel that is growing. It's more than 700 followers right now. The website says it's 500. That's not correct. We have more than 700.
We should shout out that YouTube video, by the way. We have a YouTube video that shows an apocalypse. I'm sorry, it shows an apocalypse. It shows a nuclear bomb. I just lost my train of thought. More than 100,000 views on it, so you should check that out.
Yeah. Steph has an article where you can watch about 19 declassified real nuclear explosions from the 50s and 60s, essentially. And they're all silent. And so we added sound to one of the best videos, made it just a cool bomb explosion video. YouTube's liking it. There's more. Last I checked, 170,000 views. We're probably above that. We're growing several thousand a day. So if you want to check that out, there might be an unidentified flying object in that video. We did a separate video about that, and we're actually going to do more videos on the channel soon. Soon. There are some things on the to-do list ahead of it, but we want to show you some survival products. Steph, I, and Shawn have all invested a pretty penny in surviving the apocalypse. And some of that stuff is junk and some of it's really high quality. So we want to tell you which is which and help people in the fastest, most efficient way possible. Thank you all so much for joining us for this podcast. We enjoy doing it. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. We are going to be back next week, Tuesday for Twitch, Friday for the official release. I want all of you to stay safe. And as always, always be ready for the big one. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.